welcome to the We Talk Chelsea podcast, a podcast of Sunday League playing friends united for a love of Chelsea Football Club. And it's business as usual. Chelsea dominate possession but can't seem to break down the opposition. Middlesbrough doing the low block, doing perfect counter-attacking football and taking a 1-0 lead going into Stamford Bridge in a few weeks' time. Timber, it was dismal viewing, wasn't it?
Sorry, camera issue. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was terrible, absolutely awful. I think it shows problems with majority seating
Yep.
this season. You know, bad finishing, not taking our chances,
Yep.
poor tactical setup, and just horrible football at the end of the day. I think that's a big point.
Yeah, and you realise just how important it is for the opportunities to be taken. If you look at the big chances that Cole Palmer had in the first half, through on goal, taking advantage of mistakes in Middlesbrough's back line and just wasn't taken. It's so key because if you get that goal, I don't think we would have seen the result that we've seen this evening, would we?
No, I totally agree. I think, like I say, it's just a result of very bad finishing. And also poor tactical setup. I think we, with young players, you can excuse the fact that they can have bad games or bad finishing. Cole
Yeah,
Palmer isn't a striker, to be honest.
yeah,
Like you say, he has been one of our best players this season, so I can't be too critical of him. However, that those chances, I suppose, have to be put away. And it also shows the lack of a number nine. I hate to say it, but with Jackson gone away, yeah, it's looking pretty peak right now in terms of goal scoring up players.
yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, we'll look at the lineup from the starting for the start of the game, and we're live on the youtube.com/we talk Chelsea, and also live on TKS TV. If it's the first time you have seen us, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. We usually have three of us, but Charlie, in his infinite wisdom, has decided to drive to Middlesbrough this evening to watch said game, and he sent us a message 2 minutes before full time said he's already left to beat the traffic because it's no point. I think the best thing that we do in this scenario, usually Timbers, will bring up the lineup and you talk about the tactical kind of setup for these things. When you look at the level of the people that's on the bench currently at the moment, there's not many much that Pochettino could have done or could he have done anything different, do you feel?
No, I think he kind of went with the right lineup. I think maybe Broja should have started. I think our lack of a number nine kind of showed that game.
Yeah.
But however, we did create chances without a number nine. That was the thing. But as soon as we went the 1-0 down, you kind of saw how bad it was in terms of trying to attack that box because Middlesbrough then just had the perfect game plan of just sitting back and absorbing all the pressure. Um, so yeah, I think it's one of those double-edged swords where if you don't play a striker, can you score first and let the opposition then come out and you can be compact as well as hit them on the break. But because we didn't score first, I think that's the big issue.
Yeah, and it's a common theme that we're seeing throughout the season. Chelsea dominating possession, creating chances, but if we look at the big chances missed in this game, there's a fair few that we could add to the list of the catalogue of errors in terms of chances Chelsea have had this season. I think I agree with you. Like Cole Palmer, it's hard to fault him in this game. Yeah, he missed the chances, but he's not an out-and-out number nine. And I think I have to agree. I think I would have preferred to see Brozier start on this one, even I'm not entirely convinced by Brozier. Um, in terms of being like a number nine, and it just highlights the fact that we probably should look to bring in a striker, especially with Jackson being away in this transfer window. The moves being made currently. I think you said. Did you see the news that just before the January transfer window, Clear Lake decided to buy? They liquidated or something like to make 140 million pounds worth of shares to use an investment into the clubs. They've put more money into the club to utilise for reasons we don't know. One would assume even more players, or hopefully it'd be somebody that's going to put the ball in the back of the net and not a 19-year-old from Argentina that might eventually come good, and we run the risk of that. When you look at the tactical lineup for Pochettino, I mean, this is our away form is absolutely woeful this season. It is atrocious. I think in the last 6 games we've been away from home, we've only won one, and that was against Luton, and we barely won that game in the grand scheme of things. Um, should Pochettino be potentially considering moving away from a 4-2-3-1 to provide more defensive stability um, away from home to try and get point? I know this is a cup game, but to get points from this game, because surely this would have been better. I know it's not the end of the world, a 1-0 lost in the first leg going back to Stamford Bridge, but surely it would have been better to go back to Stamford Bridge, even if it was a 0-0 or a 1-0 or something to stay for the game.
Yeah, I think just overall it was just awful. I think Pochettino really. I don't know if he can coach this team. I think it's time for him to go. If I'm honest, I don't think a change of formation will really do much. I think the tactical setup and build-up play of our team just isn't there. I think he's been there 6 months now, and we haven't
Yeah.
seen any difference in the way we set up or the way we build up play. It just looks a very average, and any team that's tactically set up well, we struggle to play against them,
Mm.
and that's my biggest issue.
Yeah, and Bury, he had it looked like they were getting caught. I think Michael Carrick's got him playing out from the back. That's what he's trying to do in the grand scheme of things a lot of the time. He's trying to play from the back, and it could have been a different story if Palmer had taken those chances in the first half. I think it's weird because I don't think the players necessarily had a bad game. Does that make sense? There's nobody that was out there that thought, he's had an absolute stinker, with the exception of maybe Madueke. I was quite disappointed by Madueke's output in this game. I expected a lot more from him, and even Raheem Sterling was kept pretty quiet by, the wing backs of Middlesbrough. I mean, it's tricky. I don't. I think there's been times when I've been like, okay, it's time for Pochettino to go, but I don't
Mhm.
think ultimately. I think ultimately, if we get rid of Pochettino now,
Yeah.
I think it's too soon in the grand scheme of things. Because what would you do in this scenario? You'd be back to a situation of similar to when Lampard came in last season, bringing an interim in. Do you think that Chelsea would try to, if it was you and you're calling the shots and you're, Temba Bowley, are you going to go and say, all right, get rid of Pochettino, bring in an interim, or you think, okay, there are managers out there that are available? Do you think Chelsea should strike a balance and go for hiring somebody straight away, or trying to wait for somebody that becomes available in the summer?
Well, I think they should be doing their background checks already. I think uh, from reports we've heard, obviously that Europe isn't apparently a must-do this season. Although I think we do need to climb back up that table to start.
Mm,
Just getting players in a good mood, feeling and looking like a serious club, because you do fall into that sort of mediocrity sort of thing where you kind of get to used to these results, get used to the performances, and I think it'll do great for the club and the fans to just feel like we're progressing in some sort of way, and the players
mm,
themselves. I mean, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but what we can see on the pitch is that they don't look like they're tactically well set up. Uh,
yeah,
and these are crucial years for them to sort of, develop their game and, take it on to the next level. So, in that sense, it's more of a reason why we need someone who's tactically good to, improve the players, because a lot of them are young. A lot of them do have a lot of individual brilliant ability, but
yeah,
tactically they don't look well drilled. They don't look well set up, and I think that comes from the manager. I think he needs to take more charge of how we build up in, like I say, how we play, how we're set up, and I don't know. I just don't see it. I really don't. And I think many other managers in this league have done better with less time.
yeah. I'm inclined to agree in that scenario. Um, it's just it's tricky because I think it's a kind of like a shoulda, woulda, coulda, because you don't know who's going to be in that situation. Like, could be any manager in this situation with the level of injuries sustained to Chelsea's first team players. Still waiting on Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell should be back by the second leg, hopefully, at least at some form on the bench, to provide, maybe take Colwill out in that position and have an out and out left back. I feel like we ask this question a lot, but when it comes to the injury side of things, is that a factor, or is it simply just not an excuse anymore, given the level of injuries across the league this season?
I don't. I don't think it is a thing of injuries. I'm not quite sure. I think it's maybe like 10% of the squad building itself, But then again, he's played Cole at left back again. I think another mistake. I understand that our other two left backs are out injured, so
Yeah,
that probably doesn't help him.
And the other
and
one's just gone out on loan with a view
yeah,
to buy in the summer.
yeah, that was our only other left back left, and he sent him out on loan. Whether he trusts him or not, that's a different thing. We're looking at a centre back, which again I don't quite understand with the amount of centre backs we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a tricky one. The wingers, again, they're not the greatest, but again, you're not giving them the good platform to let them develop and showcase their talent. I mean, we've seen Enzo and Caicedo; they look like average players, and
Hmm.
previous clubs they've been at or international level, we see them playing really well. So you've really got to question the manager of and also the setup of this team. Why are we seeing players play well elsewhere, but not for our team?
Yeah. It's strange. You look at the momentum side of things as well. It's pretty much if you look at this is what 90% in our favour, other than
Yeah.
Middlesbrough goal. But they look so threatening on the counter attack. They absorbed that pressure. They did what every team does against Chelsea if they are considered on a lower down the table or in a lower league, they put that low block in place, and Chelsea can't seem to find a way to unlock that low block without getting any form of like free kick or penalty to kind of get us into that kind of idea. And it's getting a bit repetitive and a bit ridiculous. I mean, fully the swing of momentum here is crazy for the benefit of people watching this and not thinking. The momentum graph pretty much is all blue. Um, the entire way. There's moments in the first half where I thought Chelsea played potentially a little bit better. At least they created the chances.
Mm.
XG, I'm not too sure how much you read into XG in the grand scheme of things, but if you look at here, it's XG 2.17. We're supposed to be scoring these goals. Big chances missed, 4 big chances missed. Middlesbrough had no big chances missed. They had one big chance and they took it. Clinical again. It just goes to show how fragile Chelsea are potentially on the counter attack. Do you think would it be beneficial if we Chelsea? I try and look at how things were when Tuchel came in, and you know how defensively fragile we were. We conceding goals left, right, and centre, and then as soon as Tuchel came in, the first thing that he did was made us technically defensively very, very solid. And yes,
Yeah.
whilst we weren't playing the most attractive football, scoring a lot of goals, which has just been Chelsea's issue for the last however many seasons since Diego Costa left, I think that's the last probably out and out striker that we had properly that was going to bang goals in for us. But do you think an argument can be made to bring in a more defensive side manager, even if it's done on an interim basis? There are managers that could potentially be available. Conte is one of them that might come in for 6 months and just shore us up. You never know, just to get his name back in the market and show what he can do. Would Chelsea benefit from an interim? And I just don't want to see this never-ending cycle of a manager coming in. There's all hope goes to pot in 6 months, and then we have an interim to the end of the season. We bring somebody else in. It's just an endless cycle of dross.
I think that sums up Chelsea perfectly well. I understand you want to get away from that cycle, but I think we've got to accept it's probably a culture that Abramovich set, and we're trying to get away from that. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, it is a part of football, but it's more of so a part of Chelsea. I think we've seen the good and bads of getting rid of managers too early, or keeping managers on for too long. Obviously, we even finishing second with sack managers, or finishing third or fourth would get rid of managers. Famously Ancelotti for finishing second, he was sacked in the
yeah,
Goodison tunnel. But that was the standards we set, I suppose. Right now we're accepting mediocrity. We'll have to say. I know the board have
yeah,
been paid of giving the manager time and seeing how the season plays out. But with football sort of thing, you can fall really hard if you don't watch yourself. Sort of thing. There's lots of other clubs who are constantly upgrading themselves and
mm,
making themselves a better team, and we seem to be at that stagnant point where we've fallen off, but we haven't got a lot better. Because from
yeah.
last season to now, yeah, we might look a little bit better on the eye, but we're still around the same position. So have we really improved, or has everyone else improved around us?
Yeah, I think everyone else has improved around us, and they built a team, whereas I think Chelsea have built a collection of
An
individuals.
industry.
Uh, yeah, of sellable assets in the grand scheme
Mm.
of things long term. Like, what's to say, like Enzo doesn't go to Real Madrid at some point in like 4 or 5 years' time for a fee. Do you know what I mean? And we make money back in that scenario. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's just worrying. I mean, look at the Preston game at the weekends. It was 0-0 at half time, pretty dire first half, let's face it. But the
Mm.
second half, we got out of the blocks and took advantage of a tiring Preston team and ended up winning the game 4-0. And you look at the XG for to this one, that's why I probably wasn't too as worried. I wasn't too concerned. We didn't take our chances in the first half. But half time, I thought, okay, we need half time to come here because the momentum was fully in Middlesbrough's favour towards the back end of that half. And we looked shaky, misplaced passes, especially after the first goal. I'm still not entirely convinced by Axel Disasi.
Yeah.
But if you look at the stats here in terms of XG, we started out very well, 1.59. Second half, it got worse. It got worse. How much can you attribute that to Michael Carrick going to his players, right, 10 behind the ball, get that deep? How much can you have to attribute it to the ineptitude of kind of our attacking prowess when it comes to that scenario?
Um, I think for any team, it gets much harder when 11 men sit behind the ball. I think,
Hmm.
you find less space, obviously. You're probably able to get less shots off target. You're more patient with build up, as with big teams, as you've seen. And prolifically, I don't think we have any good ball strikers outside the box. So you can definitely see why
No.
that XG went down. We often like to try work it into the box, or at least till the very edge of the box before we take a
Yeah.
strike. I mean, you saw Disasi with that shot, and it kind of summed up, the threat we have from long range. Because
Yeah.
the teams, I feel like they have decent ball strikers, or at least they can work the ball into the box a lot quicker or more efficiently. Where we don't look like we have a rhythm of how we attack that box. Yeah, we have, I've seen stats of us having touches in the opposition box, so many, or Gallagher having so many, but
Mm.
it doesn't seem to go anywhere, if you know what I mean. I don't know
Yeah.
if that reflects on you as well. I don't know what you think about our build-up play or attacking patterns.
It's just boring, if I'm completely honest. Like, if I'm completely blunt and to the point, I don't get excited watching Chelsea play anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, but I think maybe because we do this, it kind of takes the shine off it a little bit. It takes the enjoyment away because I have to go and then discuss it for an hour, usually afterwards,
Hmm.
or on a Monday or straight after the game on a Tuesday, like we're doing now. Um, but it's just I see the same patterns, and there's no change. There's no plan B. There's no, okay, this isn't working. Let's lump it. We'll work crosses. We'll do it that way. We'll try and get something on the end of it because it worked for in the game against Brozier. We weren't getting any against Brozier against Preston. Brozier towering header got it again. So I thought Brozier potentially, like, I agree with you. I expected him to start this evening, especially with three at the back. They're expecting to get crosses in the box. A championship side. They do play out, but I'm assuming they would expect at some point they would have tried to lump it in towards Brozier to kind of get ahead on goal. It's it's just poor. I'm just not excited by it. I think it's tricky to even gauge what is the most important thing to buy, and in this window, because I think we do need to dip into the market again, unfortunately, because we're clearly not there. We haven't developed a cohesive team that's capable of uprooting any trees, and scoring goals. Really, Preston aside,
Yeah, I was
I, I
gonna
don't
ask
even I
you.
don't even know where you prioritize. I just don't. I'm sick of reading us being linked to defenders. If I'm completely honest, I'm sick of
Yeah.
that. We do not need to get a defender in. I was kind of surprised that Andre Santos wasn't. Is he cup tied or something like that? So he can't play in that. But I was
No,
surprised
no,
with
no,
him.
no. He's gone on the international duty for Brazil.
Ah, okay. Well, that's the reason. Didn't realise that, but I was surprised that we didn't see him. But that might be why. That's obviously why. But
Mm.
I think it would be beneficial to keep somebody like Andre Santos back for Chelsea as a different option in midfield because we're short in that area. I mean, once we get an injury, like, who do you bring on really?
Mm.
But do we prioritise bringing in another a winger to style number 10? Because let's face it, at the moment, Cole Palmer, whilst he's fantastic as a right winger, I think he's more he needs a free roll in order to get the best out of Cole Palmer. I don't know if you see it, he likes to drop in deep, pick up the ball, attack with the ball, make those turns in the hole. I think that's where he's better played. But then it also means dipping into the market to get another winger. Or do we have like two number 10s and we play them as like a weird little hybrid system when Reece James and Ben Chilwell are fit for their 3 games a season, and you allow them to kind of like overtake. But it's what if it's you? Who do you prioritise? Are we simply just going to say we need to get a striker that's going to take their chances and have some form of consistency? But the problem is who really, who realistically could we get in this scenario in this January transfer window without breaking the bank? You know, it's 100 million for it's 100 million for Tony, it's 100 million for Osimhen. You know, rumours that I've seen, you know, there's a pre-contract talks with Osimhen, which would be good, but also he's an unknown entity when it comes to the Premier League as well. Fantastic footballer, but again, so fed up of us buying strikers and then flopping because and
Yeah, when they're
how
falling
much is
through.
that attributed to the player? How much is that attributed to the player or the way that we play? Because it seems we don't really change our style with each manager, really. Maybe
No.
formation, but not
Mm,
style.
mm, mm.
Um, it's a lot of outlay, and there's a lot of outlay on all these players. Like, what do you do? Do you just go into the loan market, see who's available on loan, and just see if we can kind of have them as cover whilst Jackson's away? Because whilst I don't rate Nicholas Jackson, I think he's not the finished product. He, you know, there's potential there. You know, for his link-up play, we discussed it last week. His link-up play is much better than Brozier's. But do we need to dip into the market and just bring somebody on loan? But who is there really? Who's there on loan?
Enough,
The
possibly. If he would take it, if maybe.
Benzema.
Yeah.
Mm,
Apparently
maybe.
he's
I
not
mean,
happy with Saudi.
well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I take Kante back. He's managed to stay fit for the past freaking 6 months. Who knew?
Jordan
Like,
Henderson.
as soon as he leaves, oh, don't Charlie. He's probably listening to this on the drive home now. He's going, yeah, bring Jordan Henderson. Yeah, he's probably like big. I mean, I wouldn't even be opposed to that, to be honest, at this stage. To have him in on loan or a 6-month contract or something like that. Just bring him in and say, do you know what? We need somebody with experience who's going to kind of like grab these players by the scruff of the neck and say, this is what you need to be doing and when. Um, but Benzema, maybe. I don't know. Do you go for Ronaldo? Fuck it. Go for Ronaldo. Why not?
Nah, he wouldn't
Six
come.
months.
He would
He wouldn't come. But
come.
Benzema, maybe. If it's an option. I don't know. I'm just so
It's. I think it's
fed up
such
with
a.
it.
It's such a. I don't know. A difficult question, but like I say, I think the manager plays a big part in this. A
Mm.
big part. I don't think if you got him Messi, Suarez, and Neymar in their prime, we win the league. I still don't think we do. I still don't think we
Okay.
do because
So,
just
but that brings the questions: who do you bring in? Who comes in to
yeah,
replace
yeah.
him?
I don't
Like,
I don't have the answer, but I will tell you that the manager right now is definitely a big problem.
I mean, if we look at the available managers that we could go for, I'm bringing up here transfer market because you could just type in available managers and this just brings it all up. Two ex Chelsea managers, three ex Chelsea managers, Lampard, Potter, Conte.
No,
That
no,
Hansi Flick's available again. He's a manager that's won loads of things. Julian Lopetegui, I could probably butchered that pronunciation,
no, that was
but
perfect.
he's still available. He's available, since leaving Wolves in the summer. For 6 months as an interim, maybe you say, okay, do all right for 6 months, get us as high up the league, and we'll reevaluate in the summer. But
Exactly.
it's who there isn't many managers that are screaming out to me other than Sam Allardyce. Do you know what I mean?
Flick. Well, I'll do everything to
Flick,
try get or Lopetegui at least for 6 months. I wouldn't want him long term, but I don't think we're going anywhere with this. And it's better to break up the marriage than keep it going for
yeah.
just you know just for another six
There's
months for what use? Because I do think that Poch won't see out his contract, and I don't know if you agree with that.
I don't
I
either. I
can't
don't
see
think
that.
he will either. It's a
Yeah,
2.5 year deal, and even if he got to the end of the 2.5 year deal, I don't think it'd be renewed. Um, I can't see it getting to that scenario. I mean, an option here is a little bit rogue that I was just looking through the list of available managers, but one of them, is Van Nistelrooy. and he's done particularly well in the Netherlands. I know he's a Man United ex-player, ex-legend, but he's an option for points per match averaged 2.2 points per match in for PSV Eindhoven, admittedly in the Eredivisie, but it's an option for 6 months. So hey, trial run, see how you do. Do you think that could potentially? I mean, I'm just spitballing here. This could be completely out of
I
nowhere. But do you
think a
think that?
manager like
Why
that,
not?
he'll probably need a transfer window. Obviously, he's quite a new manager, same as Alonso. I think he's probably someone, again, you bring in the summer. Right now, if you were to bring in a manager, I think a manager with experience, knowledge, tactics, and tactical setup, and maybe bring one of his former players into the team to sort of help the team understand the fundamentals of what he wants to do. I think we saw it with Pau Torres and Unai Emery when he brought him
Mm.
over here. That's the thing you want to do. We've seen it with Mourinho, Ferreira, or Sen and players like that he's taken around with him at
Yeah,
other clubs. I
I'm
think,
legitimately. I'm getting to the point where I'd say I want Mourinho back. That's where I am.
well, his contract's up in the summer and
I
he's not
am.
signed.
I, I am getting to the point where I think get Mourinho in because he would galvanise the fan base. Let's face it, he really would. It's a brand new ownership. It's not got the ties to Roman. It's complete. Let's face it, the club is completely different to where we were. 18 months ago, top down, completely different. He's got that connection to the fan base. He's got the respect that be commanded by the younger players that would have seen Mourinho's teams growing up. Is that a terrible idea, or am I just talking absolute nonsense because it's 20 past 10 and I've just watched my team get battered by Middlesbrough?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the Mourinho we know and love, he was very good at coaching defenses and knowing how to be tactically set up in terms of being solid as a team, and he would
Mm,
often like let sort of like players express themselves going forward. Um,
mm,
like I say, I think this team needs more of a dogmatic, not a dogmatic, what could I say, a systematic approach in terms of build up
mm,
play and kind of like what we saw under Maurizio Sarri, where everything was very
mm.
navigated and astute, and like we followed certain triangles and rhythms. I think that's what this team needs. I could be wrong. Mourinho could come in here and bring a few senior players, and we
But
fly up the table. Like, who knows? Who knows?
I'd
But
argue what's precedent is we need to be a solid team because right now we're so wildly inconsistent
yeah,
in terms of
yeah,
how we get. And I think Mourinho potentially could bring an air of, I say this with a tongue in cheek, an air of stability. There's players that, like I said, would have grown up watching Mourinho and his teams. And yes, while he might be a little bit, not outdated, but he first came to prominence, 20 years ago when he won the Champions League with Porto. Nobody
mhm,
expects him to win the Champions League with Porto. But I'm leaning towards him if I'm completely honest, because when I look at with the grand scheme of things, the only other managers I would have considered maybe is Carlo Ancelotti, but he's just extended his contract at Madrid. There's rumours that he was going to go with to go Brazil potentially, and I think he kind of left Chelsea too soon. I don't think he had a fair shake of the tree.
yeah,
Um, Mourinho and other managers that might be available is Xabi Alonso, a young upcoming manager. But whether Xabi Alonso would join Chelsea is another thing when, Jurgen Klopp eventually does leave Liverpool. He's been with Liverpool for a certain amount of time now. I think he would leave potentially in the next 5 years, I'd assume. He might be holding out for that one. He might even be holding out for Ancelotti's contract to expire and then go to Real Madrid. I'd argue Mourinho. I genuinely would. It would be interesting to think, people watching this now, please feel free to comment on this. And if you're watching this tomorrow when it's uploaded, first feel free to, who you think is going to be the best manager to take over Chelsea, because I don't think Pochettino is the one. I think I know I said I was on the fence, but I really don't. I think I've been convinced by you entirely throughout the course of this conversation, because I look at the game on the weekend. We've got Fulham at home, is it?
yeah.
Um, Fulham at home, 12:30. I can't. Maybe we get something from it. I don't know. Depends what type of Fulham comes up. Willian will come and score 2 goals out of nowhere. Um,
And
I don't
this
know.
is what I
I
wanted
really
to
don't know.
ask, because how far do you then take this before it becomes intangible? We've possibly got about what, the next 4 or 5 games. I don't know if you could bring up a fixture list to really
Yeah, I'll bring it up. So the
save
next
our
few games
season.
we've got Chelsea. It's Fulham on Saturday, and then we have the second leg against Middlesbrough at home on the 23rd. We have Aston Villa in the FA Cup fourth round at home, Liverpool away, Wolves at home, and then Palace away.
Yeah,
Um,
so
so we're
once
going
you
out to Villa in the fourth round. So that's going to
yeah,
happen.
and like I say, if you read those fixtures out loud, really, those are the only games I think that matter this season. I think we're almost too far away from top four. If we lose again, we possibly could get in the Europa League spaces. But again, we would have to keep up with the other teams because if you think about it, to be honest, the other teams now will start playing in Europe again. So the Thursday Sunday cycle will start for them
Yeah.
next month. Um,
Mhm.
but again, like I say, we then have to keep up pace with them, and that's the issue. I think we haven't seen this season when
Yeah.
they've won, we've often lost, or vice versa, sort of thing. So
And we've got a tough run of fixtures in February time. From February
yeah,
up until the start of April, I'd argue. It's kind of similar to what we had in November time. We've got
mhm,
Liverpool, we've got Man City away, then Tottenham at home, which means Timo Werner will inevitably score. Brentford away, Newcastle at home, Arsenal away. We've got Burnley at home, and then we got Man United at home. So yeah, we've got a large proportion of that as home games, which is good because our home form is better than our away form is awful. Is Burnley the only game that we've won away from home this season? Well,
uh,
Tottenham, but that doesn't really count. It was against nine men.
Luton.
Do you know, I'm not. Okay, again, Luton. So look at that, Luton, Burnley, and a nine-man Tottenham. It doesn't make good reading, does it? When you word it this way.
I'm trying to think of any others.
I'm looking for it now. Fulham,
Fulham.
We're on 2-0. Burnley, Fulham. It's poor. It is very, very poor. Um, but we digress. We'll probably do that. Usually, what we tend to do is tend to make these, unless there's anything you feel like you can add to this situation, because piss poor. What do you think? What are you expecting on Saturday when it comes to Fulham coming over to Stamford Bridge to the good side of Fulham?
I think it very much looks like a draw at the moment. Again, I think our confidence will be slightly shot. Um, Impetus is going to definitely be please score first because if they
Yeah,
score first, I think it'll be a very long day again. Very,
yeah,
very long day. And Stamford Bridge is not a fortress these days. Although I do believe we are a good goal scoring team, we have become a good goal scoring team as of late. Um,
mm,
in both boxes, we're still not good enough. And in
yeah.
midfield, this was something I wanted to get your thoughts on. What do you think
Mm.
of like how we play out from the back and just play
Don't
out
like
in?
it. I don't like it. We're not good enough. We're not good enough. We've tried to play it. The only time that it's worked is under Tuchel,
Yeah.
because Tuchel had that passing channel that I can see it now. I can see that Tuchel, like that passing movement, it pass out to the centre back, then it would be played along to the fullback. The fullback would get it along the line to who was playing left wing, and then they pass inside to the centre midfielder, and they'd turn it round, and they'd be able to open out and spray the ball across and make the switch across to the other side. I can see that passing triangle now.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah.
We play that go straight across inside 1-2 passing triangle, and then we're free every single time. And at the moment, we don't have the players that are that good enough to play that way. We just don't. And it's just the lack of plan B. I think managers look at playing Chelsea and they think, okay, we can get something from this game. I think fans think it too.
Yeah.
Opposite
Oh
fans
yeah.
are thinking, and players 1,000,000%. I guarantee Middlesbrough players, even like the kind of more pessimistic Middlesbrough player, they thought, oh, we're getting something from this game. Based
Hmm.
on what we've seen this season, we can 1,000,000% get something from this game. Um, and they did. They did. Smash and grab, got it, took the chance as well. One big chance, one goal. Chelsea had four, missed them all. It's just the same story every single time. Do you feel that the lack of plan B is detrimental? Do you think it's just is it a Pochettino thing, lack of plan B, or is it a Chelsea thing?
I think it's a bit of both. inexperience and lack of, like you say, plan B. I think um, the setup isn't there, but then again, half the players aren't good enough at the moment. You saw
Yeah,
like Mudrik today. A lot of the times he doing a lot of incorrect things. I don't know if you saw Colwell, him and Colwell having a few arguments in that end of that second half where he was telling him, give me the ball, and Colwell's like, you need to come back, get into space more, so I,
yeah,
trust that you'll take that first touch sort of thing. Um, you know, that left hand side, Mudrik again doesn't hold his width enough. He wants to cut in. Colwell isn't a left back, so he's staying sort of in that left centre back role. So
yeah.
again, you completely just nullified one side of your
Your
attack.
attack, yeah,
Yeah, and all the time we saw most of the balls going to Gusto. Gusto either gets the ball, crosses it in the box, there's nobody there, or Broja's not good. Hold up play wasn't quite good enough, and it just it's too obvious, way too obvious, and I think that's the telling point. We're just too obvious in how we attack.
yeah. I think Mudryk as well. I get frustrated sometimes watching Mudryk because it's clear there was. It sounds like an echo in what a lot of pundits and people say. There's a player in there. It's very obvious there was a player in there, but it's just that IQ side of things. I think he lacks that kind of positional awareness. There's a lot of times where as a left winger and the ball's on the right hand side, your whole thing is you need to be on the back post. You need to be on the back post or making a run into the back post every single time, and he doesn't. He sits on the
Mm-hmm.
edge of the box and he wants it to kind of fall to him there. He
Mm-hmm.
needs to get in the positions to score these goals, and I think he gets so many more goals if he was to just make the commitment to running into the back post every single time. I remember listening to Peter Crouch. I know it's a completely different player compared to Mikhailo Mudryk, let's face it, but Peter Crouch, he'd say every single time to the people working on the wingers, just cross it into me at the back post. I'll be there. As long as I'm in the area, that's my thing. Just get in the area, and I'll score goals. And he did. To his credit, he scored goals because he was ginormous. But
Yeah.
you need to be in the area to score goals in order to score goals. And I don't think he would rather kind of take a few touches, take somebody out. He reminds me of like a Sunday league player. Really annoying kind of Sunday league player who's actually quite good, but they
Mm-hmm.
skin one player and then they have to go and try and skin another player. That
Yeah,
makes
instead
sense.
of doing the obvious thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where he is at the moment, and it's probably a harsh analysis on Mikhailo Mudryk because there's been times when he's been great this season, there's times when he's just fallen off. But we digress. Usually we try to keep these to an hour, but there's not much we can really say in this scenario. But just very very quickly, what do you think? You think it's going to be a draw at the weekend? Score draw or boring 0-0? It's not going to be a 0-0 with
1-1.
Chelsea, is it?
1-1.
1-1. I'm going to go 2-2. Why not? Treat myself. That's been the We Talk Chelsea podcast. Charlie should be back with us next Monday at 9:30. If you found us, if you're watching us on Facebook or if you're watching us on Twitter/X, please feel free to go onto the YouTube channel /We Talk Chelsea podcast and hit that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. We'll be back next week at 9:30 on Monday. Take care. Speak to you soon. Up the Chelsea.